On the 25th of May 2025, Saturn is going to make a powerful shift into Aries. Let's talk about it. Greetings, salutations, and good now. I'm Kevis Major, doing it major, helping you to do it major using the insights of astrology. Now, Saturn is going to move into Aries, and this shift is going to be quite powerful. It's going to be quite powerful. So let's break it down. Let's get into it. Now, Saturn deals with discipline. Are you disciplined? How disciplined have you been lately? It deals with responsibility. Are you a responsible person? It deals with structure, how you structure yourself, how you structure your life. It deals with authority, how you assert yourself, how you dominate people, places, things, circumstances, and situation, how you dominate your life. It speaks heavily towards limits and boundaries that are placed upon us or that we establish for ourselves just to help us to make actions. In a world where there's unlimited possibilities and unlimited options and choices, we get a certain level of action paralysis where it's just hard to make a choice because of the sheer amount of options that we have. And so having limits and boundaries and constraints, it really pushes us not only to make action, but more deliberate and concentrated action. Think about this. I have all day to exercise and work out, versus I say I have 45 minutes between 4:30 and 5:30 to get a 45-minute workout in. You know what I'm saying? So you see, one is just open and vague and leaves a lot of room for procrastination and dilly and dallying and choosing, is in the morning or in the evening or how long or whatever, versus like, all right, I just set up this framework for us to work in, and that's what we're gonna do. Saturn is all about like systems, so when you think about any sort of system, how things are structured and who's responsible for this. Think about a company or a corporation, or even the government. The government is formed under that type of Saturnalia energy where, okay, you have to spend a lot of time to become really good at something, and everybody's going to be responsible for what they're really good at. All right. Saturn also deals with delays, but not denial. All right. So things may take some time to happen, but it's happening because we are diligently putting in the work that it takes to get to a desired destination. You see, Saturn is all about the reward at the end. It's all about the reward for your long-term efforts, for not giving up, for staying consistent, for staying diligent. And it also speaks to us the punishment that you get for taking shortcuts and trying to do things the quick and easy way. Saturn is all about maturity, growing up, limiting yourself, not overindulging, and all of the life lessons you get from limiting yourself and being disciplined. Wherever you have Saturn in your chart, or whenever Saturn is shifting or aspecting, like, that's where you need to grow up, that's where you need to mature, that's where you need to take accountability, responsibility, and just have a high level of realism and also resilience. You see, nothing grows without time, right? Every plant, every person, every situation, every company or corporation, like, it takes time. So Saturn deals with our evolution as individuals. Saturn also has a harsh way of cutting through the bullshit, cutting through the illusions, stripping away all of the fluff and bluff of the ego. Think about it this way, because we all know this person who always says, yeah, I'm working on this, or oh, I'm doing this, just a lot of hot air. And as time goes by, you ain't ever able to see any fruits of the labor. You ain't ever get to see the end result of what I was working on, and that's like the hash side of Saturn. Like, it brings up situations and opportunities that show you, yo, you were bullshitting with your time, with your, your attentiveness. How present are you when you're, just going through the training? Saturn, when I think about Saturn, I think about boundaries and restrictions, right? Boundaries and restrictions that are imposed upon us. I don't want to say from the cosmos, but like you're born in a country, okay, you were born into a family, which is a system, Saturn. You were born under like a nation, a government, all of that is like Saturnalia, Saturn energy, where there's certain boundaries, there's certain structures, there's certain authority. Everyone has their role to play, everyone has a responsibility, people are accountable to other people for how everything is functioning. And you were born into that. There's nothing you could do to change the society or the system or the world that we were born under. So there's certain limits and boundaries, like you're under laws and stuff like that, that are imposed upon us. That's one thing. There's also limits and boundaries that we could establish for ourselves to create a framework for us to make action. Without a framework, we open up ourselves to procrastinate, to overthink, to rethink, to talk ourselves out of making action, to just have action paralysis. Think about it this way. If I told you to choose a color, you have so much choices, you know what I'm saying? So it takes you a long time to choose a color. But if I had red and blue and I said choose one, oh, give me the red, boom, because there's only two options, right? So likewise, when we have certain boundaries and restrictions or limitations, it helps us to make actions faster. Another example is like I like doing art, specifically producing music. So if I open my music production software right now, I have a blank canvas, unlimited possibilities. I could explore different genres, I could explore different tempos, I have a whole array of sounds I could use, different techniques, different styles, whatever. And so it's like, oh, what genre, oh, what tempo, oh, what sounds, oh, what this. Like, there's so much options that it makes it difficult for me to start making a song. But if I tell myself I'm making a dancehall song in this key, in this tempo, using this sound pack, then as soon as I open up my thing, like, I already have those limitations that I established that are going to allow me to just go full steam ahead. So that's where limits and boundaries, that Saturn energy is quite useful in our daily life, in our day-to-day life. Now Saturn is going to be moving into Aries. Aries is the warrior of the zodiac. It's the initiator. Aries loves to act and then ask questions later. It's ruled by Mars, making it a very action-oriented space. Deals with courage, action, instincts, independence, acting first and then asking questions or rationalizing after. It governs self-identity, your personal affairs, and again, it's all about initiating, kickstarting, trailblazing, and having leadership capabilities. So Saturn in Aries, well, that's fire meeting form. It's going to be a challenging placement, I can't lie, because Saturn again wants to be patient, wants to be strategic, wants to delay the gratification and take time and get to a certain level of mastery, where Aries is like, no, we gotta do it, no, we gotta act, no, we gotta just crash out, jump out the window, do what we gotta do now. Like, we don't have the time to level up, we don't have the time to grow. This is not time to be disciplined and responsibility. Like, this is go time. And that's what Aries is saying. And so this makes this placement quite difficult. Saturn literally falls in Aries, right? So just imagine the most disciplined person who you know, or the most calm, cool, and collected person you know, getting rattled, getting out of their square, and just acting out in a way where it is quite necessary, but it's unlike you to do something like that. Saturn being in Aries, we're going to have to learn a higher level of self-control, or we're going to have to exude that control. Again, Saturn is about maturity. Aries is about assertiveness. So assertive maturity, we're going to have to be taking the initiative, or just leading in some way, shape, or form. Saturn in Aries again could also allude to mastering your identity, especially if you have Saturn going into Aries, and Aries being like your first house or something. That is all about like your personal identity. And so again, Saturn about mastery, about time, and Aries is identity. How do people see you? How do you identify? Do you identify as being lackadaisical, or you identify as, being responsible, a leader, like whatever the characteristics are when someone thinks of you, like what comes to their mind? All right, so during this transit, Saturn in Aries, I mean, this is like regular life, but a high level of frustration, a high level of anger, or just that like aggressive type of feeling bubbling up, and also blocked willpower, suppressed willpower. Now let's talk about it. Aries just wants to act, right? Think later, act now. But Saturn is about discipline, it's about responsibility, it's about maturity. And so, oh, you might just want to tell someone off, but Saturn is like, okay, reel it back in. You might just want to punch someone in the face, or just express yourself, and Saturn is like, you know what I'm saying, chill it down. Remember you got kids to feed, remember you got bills, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to go to jail. Take it easy, you know what I'm saying? Also, you might want to do something. Aries again, initiate, kickstart something. But Saturn, because you haven't used the time well, and you haven't reached a certain level of mastery, you just can't really execute what it is Aries is inspiring you to do. And so it leads to more frustration. Saturn in its shadow self, it could be responsible and disciplined, or it could be like void of that. You feel me? Like there's no discipline there. So, okay, you have the will to do it. You have, Aries is giving you like the inspiration and the fire to do something. But Saturn, because it's fallen, and you're not strong in this area, like you just can't make the action. Saturn just isn't efficient enough, or your Saturn isn't efficient enough to be disciplined, and to be mature enough to just do what you have to do in a structural way. In real life, right? In real life, we could think about this Saturn in Aries as, building your personal brand, right? Or building your body step by step, becoming fit or becoming lean. It takes time, and it starts out very, very difficult. Like it's not a learning curve, but to get going, like, okay, I need to keep going. I haven't seen any results, but I gotta keep going. I haven't got any likes or any views, but I gotta keep going. I haven't grown any muscles, but I gotta keep going. That's that Saturn type of energy. Saturn in Aries is all about fighting smart, like operating smart and not fast, because Saturn is slow and patient. but Aries is fast and impulsive, and so it's learning how to act, I guess, smart and fast, right? Because if Saturn is time and Aries is now, it's almost like when Saturn goes into Aries, we won't have any time at all. It's almost like time is going to speed up. And so being able to take the strategies that we have and the plans that we have and speed them up, but also being able to just create like a plan or strategy like instantly, you know what I mean? Because okay, Aries doesn't want to create a plan or strategy. Aries just want to act, right? But Saturn being there is like, oh, we need some sort of strategy. Like, okay, I'm going to cause a diversion and you go steal the diamond in the back room or something like this. You ever watch those movies where like they just come up with that's you know, the strategy or the plan on the spot? Well, that's kind of like Saturn in Aries. Like, you don't have time to train, you don't have time to develop, you don't have time to do anything except execute. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna execute, or you're gonna just like block yourself, you know? We're going to have like some very, very key dates happening in a few moments. On the 25th, Saturn is going to enter Aries. It's going to be there for some time up until around July 13th. I may get these dates wrong, I need to revisit them, but you know, May 25th, Saturn goes into Aries. Around July 13th, it goes retrograde in Aries. It's going to be about 2 degrees Aries when it starts retrograding. So it's actually going to just stop and, you know, slow down and start going backwards. In September, it's going to go back into Pisces for 2 months or so, up until November 15th, where it's going to go direct again. So it's going to go back into Pisces, about 28 degrees in Pisces, and then making a forward movement where it's going to go back into Aries early in 2026. And so this shift that we're going to experience is just going to be the tip of the iceberg. It's just going to be a little taste of what Saturn in Aries is going to offer. And actually, I like it. I like how this happens. It's like, okay, we get like a 90-day of the Saturn in Aries, then we go back into Pisces to finish doing like some shadow work and take all of those experiences back into Pisces, you know, do some emotional and spiritual work, and then, you know, go back into Aries. So I'm really liking, you know, the progression of this Saturn in Aries. Like, it goes in, it comes back out, then we go back in hard. So what we are going to experience, you know, is just going to be not even the test. It's just like the initiation. It's like a mock test. So this is where this is good. This is good. All right, we're going to end it here. In the next video, we're probably going to do Saturn in Aries through the different houses, because depending on which house you have displacement is going to affect you differently. So look out for that video where we're going to a part 2 of Saturn in Aries. All right, major farewell until we meet or greet again. I'm Kevis Major, doing it major.